What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another Heart Over Height episode. Today we're going to be going over making the case for 5 NBA starting lineup changes and just giving my reaction to those. So if you do enjoy this content, it would be a huge favor. Smash the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, comment down below if any of these interest you, which moves should the organization make, so on and so forth. So without further ado, let's get into it. Here, first lineup we have is the Los Angeles Lakers. Their current starting lineup is LeBron, D'Lo, Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, and Anthony Davis. The proposed change is to bring D'Angelo Russell off the bench. So, first glance at this, it would be like moving Austin Reeves back to the point guard. You have a guy like maybe Gabe Vincent start for you. Having D'Lo just run that second unit because it seems like he might not fit with this starting lineup. You then have multiple three-point shooters on the floor in Austin Reeves, Gabe Vincent. And of course, JJ Redick wants LeBron to chuck up a few more threes this upcoming season. Same thing with Cam Reddish, was in the starting lineup for a few games there. It seemed to be decently successful for them. So overall, not a bad look for them. I think it's pretty understandable since they are looking to move off of D'Lo possibly. There just hasn't been the perfect suitor, and they haven't gotten the right deal done. But yeah, I could see something like that happening where you look to either start Gabe Vincent or Cam Reddish, and then you just let D'Angelo Russell just flourish off the bench and just run that second unit. Next up here, we have the New Orleans Pelicans. Now, New Orleans is an interesting starting lineup because we've been all saying it for so long that Brandon Ingram needs to not be on this roster or needs to come off the bench. I.e., their starting lineup right now is C.J. McCollum, Brandon Ingram, Herb Jones, Zion Williamson, and Jonas Valanciunas. Now, of course, Jonas is no longer there, so they need a center. But we look at their depth chart right now, and right now they've got their rookie who's starting in the depth chart. I assume Daniel Theis is going to be starting, or either they're going to make a trade for Brandon Ingram to get a center in there. Probably tie him with someone like Jordan Hawkins. And they also have DeJounte. So then you're running a lineup of like DeJounte, CJ, Trey Murphy. And then that's the question is like, if you trade Brandon Ingram, do you also look to bring CJ McCollum off the bench? So then you're looking at starting DeJounte, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, Zion, and then your center. That's probably what I would look to do because I like CJ McCollum a lot. I really do. But I think it's time that the Pelicans need to just let those two flourish. Let Trey Murphy flourish. Let Herb Jones flourish. Because I think that long term, they're going to help you out a lot more than CJ McCollum starting. So, I mean, if not, then you could be looking at one of those two being possible Sixth Man of the Year candidate. I just like you have so much offense in this starting lineup right now with, CJ, Zion, and then, of course, DeJounte Murray being a solid offensive player. You might need to just focus on that defensive side of the ball a little bit more. So you bring in Herb Jones. Then you look to bring in Trey Murphy. And then off your bench, you have an instant offense, CJ McCollum, who can do something like Russell Westbrook and buy into a role, and that might help you be successful in the long run. So that's something that's pretty interesting in my opinion. Next up here, the Portland Trailblazers. Starting lineup currently is Scoot Henderson, Anthony Simons, Deni Avdija, Jeremy Grant, DeAndre Ayton. Now, this proposed change is to start at least one of Shaedon Sharpe or Donovan Clingan, or both. In my opinion here, I think you got to look at starting both. Try and find a move for DeAndre Ayton, i.e. the Pelicans would be an interesting if they can afford him. I think that there's the center market right now is pretty dry, and if you can utilize, going and getting a guy like a Brandon Ingram in a deal, that turns a rebuild into a retool. So then, because most likely, right, you give up DeAndre Ayton, the contracts, you probably go and you sign, Brandon Ingram to a pretty close to max deal, as you don't really have any other options here. You let Shaedon Sharpe flourish. You go find a suitor for Jeremy Grant. This is going to be a rebuild year. You start Donovan Clingan. So then you have, let's say they go and get Brandon Ingram for DeAndre Ayton. Well, we'll just say, just brass tacks, just right there. You have Scoot. You have Anthony. You have Brandon Ingram. You might look to start Denny at the 4, Donovan Clingan at the 5, or you look to move off of Anthony Simons as well, and then you start Shaedon Sharpe, who's got that athletic bounce there. You don't have two smaller guards in the starting lineup. Like that's the problem that Portland has right now is Scoot Henderson is a small guard, so is Anthony Simons. Putting the two of them together is just like CJ and Damian Lillard a few years back for the Trailblazers. So you have to make a decision on, you probably are not going to be able to run Scoot, Anthony, and Shaedon Sharpe all in the same lineup. So then you go and maybe you package DeAndre Ayton, Anthony Simons, two separate deals, Jeremy Grant being a separate deal so that you just flourish draft capital and you flourish younger talent. Brandon Ingram is not old. He's like 27, I think 28. So he would fit a timeline of these younger guys, and Scoot this is his second year, and Shaedon Sharpe is, relatively new to the league. Donovan Clingan, of course, being a rookie. You bring in Brandon Ingram, he can be the guy for the time being, right? You see what the jump you get from rookie Scoot to next year, this upcoming year Scoot. Shaedon Sharpe can flourish, of course, being in that starting lineup. I like that a lot for them if they move off of Anthony, if they move off Jeremy Grant, and if they move off of DeAndre Ayton. Now, the question for the Trailblazers is, one, can you pull off all three of those deals? Because that's a lot of movement that we're looking at. Two, do you trust the depth that you have there with Robert Williams? Can he be healthy? Can he string together a healthy season? And three, is Donovan Clingan the future right there? As in, he, to me, in Summer League looked a bit slow-footed. I think he'll be pretty solid once he gets a year under his belt and everything like that. But, he'll be a decent rim protector and everything. The question will just be on those switches when he gets that guard and he has to defend the guard. Can he handle his own a little bit? Not saying he's got to lock down Steph Curry or anything, but, you've got to be able to make those plays here and there. Right now, where there's zero expectation for the Trailblazers to win, is the perfect time to throw him into that unit. So I would say move off of DeAndre Ayton if you can. The question, though, also is the value that you'd get out of those players. Next up here is the Sacramento Kings. Their current starting lineup is De'Aaron Fox, Kevin Huerter, Keegan Murray, Harrison Barnes, of course he moved, and Domantas Sabonis. The proposed change would be putting Keon Ellis in the starting five with DeMar DeRozan. So let's take a look at their roster here. Right now, it's currently Fox, Huerter, DeMar, Keegan, and Sabonis, with someone like Keon Ellis coming off the bench with Malik Monk. I know there's been a lot of propositions that you might look to start Malik Monk. I think that Malik has found his role. I think it is six-man of the year caliber player, not the kind of guy that starts. He's the kind of guy similar to Manu Ginobili, similar to Jordan Clarkson. When they're at their best, they are coming off the bench as a six-man. J.R. Smith did the same thing a few years. Jamal Crawford, same thing. I think Malik Monk fits that role of, there's just some guys that just are better when they play into that role. Then, not everyone can be a superstar scoring 30 points a night, right? Someone has to come off the bench, and he plays better to me when he comes off the bench. Now, I understand the idea of bringing Keon Ellis into the starting lineup. The question that I would have there is, does that mean that you're moving off of Kevin Huerter? Because at that point, it seems to me they don't need both Kevin Huerter and Keon Ellis. Keon Ellis being a little younger, being a little more well-rounded in his offense and defensive game, you might look to just keep him. And Kevin Huerter probably brings a little bit more trade value, as he's known as a three-point sniper who can go to one of those championship contending teams right now. You probably trade him to somewhere in the East. That way you get away from him and, you don't boost the talent of one of those Western Conference teams that you're competing against. But yeah, that's not a bad option for sure. And then, of course, you have your depth there with Devin Carter, Malik Monk, and Jordan McLaughlin over there. So, in my opinion, I like that, bringing Keon to the starting lineup and then moving off of Kevin Huerter. Not a bad idea. I understand, too, if they were to keep Keon coming off the bench, that would just be a three-point sniper to help out Malik Monk with that second unit, especially since right now Devin Carter's injured, and, of course, who knows the timetable on his progression throughout his rookie season. Last but not least here, we do have the Utah Jazz with the starting lineup of Keyonte George, Colin Sexton, Lauri Markkanen, Taylor Hendricks, and John Collins. Now they're saying, let's go full rebuild. You start Walker Kessler and or Cody Williams. This would be probably starting Walker Kessler at the 5. You then start Lauri Markkanen at the 4, Cody Williams at the 3, Colin Sexton, Keyonte George. With that, you would probably look to move off of John Collins, because there's no need really for him on this roster at that point. You want to see, of course, what you have out of Cody Williams, what you have out of Keyonte George in second year, what you have out of Taylor Hendricks in his next year, Isaiah Collier being your rookie that you drafted a little late, Kyle Filipowski, who you drafted in the second round. He was projected to be a first-round pick, but then all the family drama came out. I still question his outside drama affecting his game, but as far as this roster here, I say why not? You're going to be towards the bottom of the league, right? We already know that because this roster is not competing with the Nuggets or the Thunder or any one of those top-tier West teams, so you're going to be at the bottom of the league. So why not develop your young players? Why not go see realistically third year out of Walker Kessler what you really have out of him? Why not go see what the rookie can do, Cody Williams, and you put him in the starting lineup? I mean, shoot. I'm even someone who you should be exploring trade options for Colin Sexton. You should be looking at, hey, Colin Sexton, you've been doing great for us, but we need to be getting draft capital and flourishing for this next draft class because it's got the guy. It's got one of the guys that only comes around every so often. Cooper Flagg is that guy. We want to try and get as close to that number 1 overall pick that we can, and then try and get somebody like him. So overall, I actually, think that the Utah Jazz have a lot of trade value and trade assets here in Colin Sexton and Jordan Clarkson. I think John Collins could provide for some depth for a championship contending team. I think, you have Drew Eubanks there who provide some center depth if one of these centers goes down. You have, of course, you have Isaiah Collier there who brings an interesting prospect because he was a dog for USC. He was a top-rated player coming out of high school. And, for him to fall as far as he did, I was kind of shocked. But I understand this draft had a decent amount of players. I think, though, in a draft class like this where it's a bit of a weaker class, you'll see those later picks flourish because they fell, i.e., you look at the COVID draft class that we had with like Anthony Edwards and them. Wiseman went super high up and he fell off a map, of course. Then you had someone like Tyrese Halliburton who is an all-NBA caliber player. So someone like Isaiah Collier could flourish. But overall, I liked a lot of these moves that Bleacher Report was suggesting. So if you guys do enjoy this content, do me a huge favor, smash the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, comment down below what you think the Utah Jazz should do and all the other 4 teams that I mentioned. All right, guys, it's been another Heart Over Height episode, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.